Hello my friends and welcome back to my channel. My name is David and I am back with the fifth installment of Bookshelf Essentials. This is a series of videos that I'm making where I talk about books that are on my shelf that are essential for my own personal collection. These are the books that are forever books that I would never dream of parting with. Because I'm going to want to not just read them, not just own them, but to reread them, probably endlessly. Many of them I've read more than once. Those that I haven't read more than once, I'm already itching to get back into. And that categorizes the book I'm going to talk about today. I have a copy of this book on my shelf, but it is ugly as sin. It is not in any way, shape, or form the version of the book I really want. But it suffices for now because it is a copy of the book that I can read. And I got it at a really, really good price of, I think, $1. And that is this. So this is The Consolation of Philosophy by Boethius. This is translated by Richard Green. This is a Library of Liberal Arts book here. Now, much like Steve Donahue, when a philosophy work of writing comes about, I tend to steer the other way. They tend to not do much at all with me. I don't really see much of the appeal. However, this is the one piece of philosophy that I find to be absolutely essential to have in my collection. And here's why. I'm going to stop holding up this ugly one. The copy of The Consolation of Philosophy that I'd like is this beautiful little thing right here. I got myself a sample for the purpose of this video of the Penguin Classics with Boethius, because if you're going to get a copy, why not have it be a Penguin Classic? I haven't looked into it yet to see if there's a really good, more scholarly edition. If there is, I'd certainly entertain picking that up, because something like this probably benefits from that. Anyway, the reason why this is an essential. This is written by a man named Boethius, who was imprisoned and was going to be dying soon. And so he wrote this work, and it is a work between a prisoner and their nurse, Philosophy. And she gives instruction on good and evil, and fate, free will, things like that, to help restore his spirit, to help him learn. It is one of those things that you see a handful of works that are written from imprisonment. I'd have to double check. I'm not sure if Boethius was scheduled to die or anything like that, but the prisoner certainly was in his book. But he was involved in a big conspiracy, and so this is what he wrote during the imprisonment, and he does a wonderful job. It is short, as you can see. It is not a long piece of work. It is an engaging read, but the real reason why this is an essential read for me is because it has strong influence on at least 2 other major works from that same kind of period. And I've experienced before where reading this has led to me further appreciating some of the things mentioned and the underlying ideas that pervade in the Canterbury Tales by Chaucer. You see Fortune's Wheel on display in The Consolation of Philosophy. The idea of, Fortune is spinning her wheel, and sometimes you're at the top and things are really great, and sometimes you're at the bottom and it's really bad because you're down in the crap. but always the idea that things are going to eventually turn around, that it's not a constant, I'm being run down and just pushed down all my life and it's never going to go good. And you see that in several of the Canterbury tales. And you see influence of Boethius also in Dante. And those are two monumental works of medieval literature that are both going to eventually appear. I'm trying not to do the obvious ones. Those would be two very obvious selections. That's why I'm also avoiding Lord of the Rings and Silmarillion and The Hobbit and things like that, because those are the gimmies. But Boethius, the Consolation of Philosophy, you may not have known that would be on my shelf. And odds are, unless you're really interested in medieval literature, or if you had a good professor who recommended you to read that alongside with some of those pieces of medieval literature when you got exposed to them, if you did in a school setting, you've probably never read and maybe never even heard of Boethius or the Consolation of Philosophy. And so that is why it is not only an essential on my shelf, but one I would like to recommend to you to give it a shot. If you're at a point where you're kicking around the idea of reading Chaucer or reading Dante, whether for the first time or revisiting them, I would propose that you would pull this out. The Penguin Classics version of this is 155 pages. I'm assuming that includes a fairly detailed preface and introduction, and probably some notes at the back. You could probably read this in an afternoon, even if you're a slow reader. And eventually, it would be a great way of giving you an entry into some of those other medieval works, and so you can understand some of their mentality, their mind frame. Even if you're not reading one of those two books, a lot of what is contained in here was also pretty common thought around the time when, around the late Middle Ages. So there you go. I'm done rambling. I think I've run out of things to say on this, other than to say I'm due for a reread on this. I really ought to give it another read, because it is an essential on my shelf, and it is a short one. So maybe I'll try to sneak that in December. Who knows? I'll read the ugly copy and see how that translation goes, because I don't even know enough to know good translations or not on this. That's another thing to consider in there. Anyway, I will catch you later.